How could we have a hurricane? How could it form? How could it possibly form in the mid-Atlantic? Well, that's an easy question. And we're going to use our handy-dandy marker. This is my notebook that I'm going to use. Lessons of weather. So this one will be about lessons of weather. I'm going to put a little sunshine to it. And then I'm going to put a nice little cloud. So, as you can see right here. Okay, so, how could we have a strong hurricane to just hit any kind of area from the northeast coast or Florida or any kind of islands from the US or any sort of typical things? Well, basically, in order to have a hurricane, right? In order to have a hurricane, I'm going to draw some little land for you. So, right here. So, we need, for our notes, right here, about a form of hurricanes. Okay, so how could we get hurricanes? Well, in order to get hurricanes, one basic thing that you need to know about hurricanes is that water must be, the temperature for the water must be at least 85 degrees of ocean water. So you must have at least 85 degrees of ocean water. What else that you need for an anatomy of a form of a hurricane? What you really need is 100%, or 95% of moisture. So basically, you need to have about 95% or 100% of moisture. And you need a El Nino. I like to put it in the letter I, so that's why I always wanted to put it for El Nino. You see that little comment right there? Okay, so you basically need El Nino. So first thing is first. What you need is you need to have about 85 degrees of body water. So when you have 85 degrees of body of water, you're going to have about 100% of water vapor. And 100% of water vapor means that you'll get like a lot of moisture and condensation that will rapidly go around to the troposphere. So basically what will happen is when you have 85 degrees of water in the ocean during the summer times, you basically can have a possibility of a hurricane event. Or you could call it a hurricane season. So basically you have to have at least 85 degrees of water. 85 degrees of water could bring over 100% of water vapor. So if you have all that 100% coordination of water vapor, it will start to rise up to the atmosphere, and then you get a form of condensation. Also, in order to get a really strong hurricane, for a strong hurricane, and I'm going to put a little star here, to get a strong hurricane, you must have 100% of condensation. So you need 100% of condensation. And what that means is when you have 100% of condensation, it basically means that you get 100% of strong low pressure and 100% of a coordination over like a longitude over 70 degrees to a latitude from 90 degrees. You must it goes like down coordinates combined two together from the Pacific Ocean or from the North Atlantic Ocean. So as those 100% of ingredients of condensation, water vapor, that's the enthusiastic that's the enthusiastic cycle for water vapor. Condensation is part of the cycle of water. But what people don't really know is that condensation causes the strength of the activity of a hurricane. And the reasoning why is because when you have this big and strong wrap-up upper-low pressure that keeps coming down, and as the high pressure starts to leave to the north or the west or south. So let's say for example, like if you have a high pressure basically in the east. So when you have a high pressure in the east, that means that mostly the east of the area that you are in is going to be a nice weather. Now let's say that you have a hurricane that's in the west. So basically, if it's going to head for the east, like for example, let's say, just like I said, if it's going to head for the east, right? So we have a high pressure, a upper low pressure, and a lower pressure from the west. So in my body right here, this area right here, this is north, this is south, and these two bodies is east and west. So east is actually, east of the area is actually this way, and west is actually that way. So you have east and west right here. So you have a big, strong low pressure that's gonna cause a lot of disasters, and it's a hurricane. And it's going to head for the east coast. What will happen is the high pressure will start to come down to the south because of the moisture, the 100% percentage of moisture and 100% of water vapor start combining in the ingredients, causing strong gusty winds. Now, when we have that situation, we get a lot of weather alerts that there could be a strong weather event of just a strong weather event of a hurricane that could just hit in the area. So that means there could be what? Evacuations. So when you have 85 degrees of water, you get all this moisture, just like I said, water vapor coming up, condensation that comes from the heat from the atmosphere colliding from the troposphere, and the jet stream starts to dip in the south. And as when we have these two ingredients, the cloud starts to swirl around. It keeps swirling and keeps swirling. Like, this is the wrong way, but it will keep swirling and swirling and swirling and swirling and swirling and swirling and swirling. These clouds will keep swirling. And the reason, and to me, why hurricane starts to swirl like this is because strong winds are starting to form. Thunderstorm, pockets of thunderstorms, which is a form from the El Nino. So as this storm keeps turning, and as the El Nino gets stronger, and as this storm keeps spinning around and spinning around and spinning around, well, what happened is the storm could get stronger, and the eye will start to get its form. Now, what's the eye of the hurricane? The eye of the hurricane is the most calmest part of the storm. So if you're in the eye of the storm, what it means is that you're in 0 miles per hour, or it could be intentionally 15 little teeny mile per hour of winds. It's just a very calm place. But doesn't mean that it's over. It is not over. If you ever be in the eye of the storm, what that means is that you're in a big situation where you're going to get stronger winds and torrential impacts and deadly gusty winds that could go up to 100 miles per hour or 150 miles per hour. So that's the form of a hurricane. Also, what can form from a hurricane is a warm front. So I'm going to put that in my notes. Front. So, right here, you have to these are the typical ingredients that you need. You need 85 degrees of water, ocean water, 100% of 95% of moisture, an El Nino that could form thunderstorms, pockets of thunderstorms. So I'm going to put a little comma, pockets, comma, thunderstorm. I don't know if I'm going to have space, but right here it says thunderstorm. I'm not really good at my handwriting, as you can see. Sorry. But you need pockets of rain, torrential rain, and pockets of thunderstorm. Now, you remember about Hurricane Sandy that hit New York City. It was one of the worst storms that ever hit in 2012. And why is the reasoning that? Why is the reason of that? Well, in that case, we had 100% of moisture. We had like a lot of water vapor that was coming up. What was so weird about Hurricane Sandy was the storm went from the land, then back to the water. It went to the land, started to weaken a bit, then it went back to the water. So it was a category 3 in the islands, but then it started to weaken, but then it went to a 2. But when it was a category 3, it didn't hit the islands at all yet. It was going to only hit at a category 2 hurricane. So it came at a category 2, and it brought a lot of really strong impacts. Look at New York City. It hit on a full moon day, which is a superstorm. It was so big and massive that it was a lot of moisture, and there was a blocking high that was in Greenland. So basically what happened is when Hurricane Sandy shifted, it went directly to New Jersey coast from the eye of the storm of Hurricane Sandy. And it was one of the most historic storms that ever hit. So that's the anatomy of how you form a hurricane. And I'm going to show you a picture in this book right here. I'm going to show you a picture about this. So give me a sec. So right here, it's showing you day 1 thunderstorms. That's an El Nino form. 100% of moisture, 100% of water vapor. 85 degrees of water starts to form. And right here, as you can see in this picture diagram, I'm going to take this out right here. As you can see, swirling winds from this moisture is building up, causing strong, gusty, deadly winds. And storms groups form a swirl of a cloud, which is like a depression, basically. It's a depression. And then winds grow, distant center forms in a cloud swirl. I forms. Typhoon is at it's almost dangerous. So typhoon. What's a typhoon? It's actually the way you say hurricane in Japanese. There's different kinds of names they call it for any kind of. If you live in India, they call it a cyclone. If you're in Australia, they still call it. I think they call it a cyclone. I'm not sure, but they're called cyclones. The ones from China or in areas, North Korea, South Korea, the Philippines, and stuff like that, they call it typhoon. Here in the U.S., they call it hurricanes. So, that's it, everyone. That's the form of the hurricanes. Hope you guys like this video. Peace out.